Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing sort of a follow-up video to the Try a Chapter tag that I did recently, and I'll link it over here if you want to go watch it. But basically I ended up reading 2 out of the 3 books that I mentioned in that video, and my reactions to them were so different than what I anticipated. If you go back and watch the Try a Chapter tag, I thought I was going to really hate this one book, ended up loving it. Thought I was really going to love this other book, ended up hating it. So I kind of just want to do like a really quick non-spoiler wrap up and tell you what I thought, because I just thought it was interesting. I'm actually going to start with a book that I thought I wasn't going to like at all, and I ended up giving 5 stars to, and that is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. This book is about a woman named Emma who, when she was 13 years old, she went to a summer camp and she made friends with some of the older girls there. And then the older girls vanished. So now 15 years later, Emma's invited to go back by the camp instructor herself. And she's invited to go back as a painting instructor, but she decides to go back so she can kind of maybe figure out what happened to her friends back then, because the case was never solved. I tried the first chapter in that video, I just really wasn't hooked. I really felt like the first 3 chapters were just really slow. I didn't care about the characters, I didn't care about the mystery too much. It wasn't until she gets to the camp that I was suddenly hooked, and I read this in a day, so that tells you a lot. That once you get past those first 3 chapters, you will literally not be able to put the book down. I think the setting was really great. I liked how it felt very atmospheric and very creepy. When you're out in nature and you don't have electricity and you don't have cell phones and stuff like that, like, it just adds this extra element of danger, because like, right now, if somebody is threatening you, you have your cell phone, you can call 911. But when you're out in the cabin in the middle of the woods and you don't have that, it just adds this layer of danger that I really enjoyed. I also really enjoyed the characters. I love when the whole cast is a little shady and you don't know who to trust. I thought that the main character too was kind of unreliable, like you didn't know if you should trust her as well. And that kind of leads into the one negative thing that I will say about this book, which I've noticed a lot in thrillers in general. I haven't read that many thrillers, but it seems like a lot of them have main characters that have some sort of anxiety or PTSD. And I think the author tries to use that to make them an unreliable narrator. But honestly, it kind of like does a disservice to people that have those disorders in real life, because it paints them in a really bad picture. And it's like, it's almost not fair, you know what I mean? I mean, it worked because we don't know if we can trust Emma and what she's telling us. This story is told between flashbacks from the 15 years ago when she was attending the camp as a 13-year-old, and then we have obviously present day. And I really liked how that was done, because we would get like little snippets of clues and information in the flashbacks that would really help us piece stuff together in the present. And the author did just a really great job of giving us just enough information right before the next reveal, so like you were kind of solving things along with the character, and I always loved that. Not only was this fast-paced, but I feel like it was also just a roller coaster of a plot. Like usually in thrillers we have one main big twist that just like knocks your socks off at the end, but this one really was just constant up and downs and like twists and turns, and it was like Space Mountain. Like, you're in the dark and you're just flying all over the place and you don't know what's going on, because every time you think you know something, it takes another dip. And I just really enjoyed that. I don't know if it's because I don't read a lot of thrillers. I did notice on Goodreads a lot of people said like this might be better for people that don't read a lot of thrillers. So I don't know if these were like tropes or twists that happen a lot in thrillers, and maybe it wouldn't be as much fun if I read the genre more, but for me, I didn't see a lot of it coming, so I enjoyed that. So maybe if you're like me and you don't read the genre a lot and you want to get into it, I would suggest this one. And also I would say this would be good for fans of Pretty Little Liars. In the Try a Chapter tag, I was like, right off the bat, I was like, this reminds me of Pretty Little Liars. And it definitely continued reminding me of that show throughout. Vivian's personality was very strong, very queen bee. She reminded me of Allison a lot from Pretty Little Liars, so I think definitely if you like that show, you should try this book. The other thing that I liked that the author did was they used the game Two Truths and a Lie. I don't know if you've ever played that game before, but it's when you tell 3 facts about yourself. 2 of them are true and 1 of them is a lie, and then everyone has to guess which fact was a lie. I found it like a really interesting way for the author to kind of tell us more stuff and to give us more clues. And I often found myself kind of flipping back and rereading sections to kind of guess which one was a lie, or if like it was like a half-truth, and it also kind of goes with the whole theme, The Last Time I Lied. I don't know, I just liked it. So yeah, I gave that book 5 stars, and that's just crazy to me that I almost didn't even read it. It's really taught me something, because a lot of the times when I go to pick out books from the library or the bookstore, I read the first chapter or two, and if it doesn't grab my attention, I won't pick it up. So now I'm like, maybe I should go more by the synopsis and by reviews, and not always dismiss a book right after just reading one chapter. Let's talk about the book that I didn't enjoy too much, and that is actually the book that I picked at the end of the Try a Chapter Tag video. So I picked Her Every Fear by Peter Swanson. I don't have the book anymore, I brought it back to the library. So a really quick synopsis about this book. There's this woman named Kate. She switches apartments with her cousin for a few months. So he goes to London to live in her flat, and she goes to, I believe it was Boston, to live in his apartment for like 6 months. And he had suggested this. So she's like, whatever, I want to go take graphic design classes, and I'll do that in America. Well, she gets over there, and her first day there, there's a murder in the apartment building, in the apartment next to her. And she suspects that her cousin knows more about the murder than he's letting on. And so it's kind of just her kind of figuring out what happened, and that's all I'll really say about it. I ended up giving this 2.5 stars because I don't know, it just wasn't really that twisty and turny. I would say like instead of it being a thriller, it was more of like a psychological suspense novel. I don't even know if that's like a thing. Maybe it's just my preference is more for like twists and turns, and it just didn't have that. But yeah, it just didn't really do it for me. I originally did pick it though because it did start out really fast-paced. The first chapter had a lot going on. The main character has anxiety, so she was having a lot of anxiety in that first chapter, and it was kind of like getting your heart rate up, and you were like just as nervous as she was. So I think that's what really caught my attention, whereas the other book was really slow-paced. So obviously, like, what's gonna hook you more, you know? I think the author did a good job at adding suspense by having multiple point of views, because you'd be in one person's point of view and they'd be telling you something, revealing something that the other character doesn't know yet. So the reader knows more than some of the characters do. And then it would switch to that other character that doesn't know everything. And so you're like, oh my god, the person's like in the closet, let's say. And the character doesn't know that, but you do. So kind of stuff like that where it created some suspense. But kind of with that, it got kind of boring because we'd be reading the same scene from different points of view. So like you already know what's gonna happen. And instead of just like skimming over like the first, I don't know, 5 minutes of what you already know and getting to the part where it's different for that other character, like it would go through the whole scene. So I think that's where it kind of lost me a little bit, and where it did start to drag in the middle. It's interesting because when I read the first chapter of this one, I really cared about the characters. At the end, I wanted to know like what was going to happen to them. I was invested in them, but slowly like it just went down and I stopped caring about the characters. Whereas in the other book, I didn't care about them after the first chapter, but by the end I was like freaking out when they were in danger, you know? Like I was just like so invested. So it's kind of weird that that switched for me. The other thing that kind of bothered me about this book is because it's in multiple point of view, one of the point of views is from a bad person, and that made it interesting to read, but it was also kind of like, I don't want to be in that person's head, and I don't want to be reading about that, and it kind of was like glamorizing hurting people, and just really, I did not enjoy that at all. So I'd almost wish it had been from like maybe just 2 points of view instead of like 4. So those are my 2 quick reviews of these books. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you learned, just like I did, that you shouldn't judge a book by its first chapter. Let me know if you've ever judged a book after its first chapter and then ended up really liking it, or if you've DNF'd a book after the first chapter and now you're reconsidering. Let me know what your thoughts are down below, and if you've read either of these books, let me know what you thought. I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.